We have reached the part of the podcast where we're talking UFC 288, and who better to come on than the man, the myth, the sexiest man on Twitter, my boy Kyle, the DFS Bachelor. Kyle, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing great, man. It's a good card this weekend too, right? Like Cejudo coming back after 3 years. I'm really looking forward to. I don't have a play on this fight because I don't know what will happen. But Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad, that's a great fight. Even the Andrade, Yao Jianan, that's a good. I mean, there's a lot of good fights on this card. I thought it was a tough card to bet personally. A lot of spots where, like, it's probably not the easiest betting spot. But there's a couple spots here where I think there's some value. So I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I'll be watching and drinking. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Do you feel whoever wins the Gilbert, if Gilbert wins, do you feel he gets a title shot?
I mean, it's not Kamaru Usman anymore, so that's good because we saw what Usman did to him. I think the winner of this fight should get a title shot. It's really tough in that division, though. You have Colby, who's going to get one. So after that Colby fight happens, the division's real top heavy, but it's really hard to imagine that after the winner of this fight doesn't get one. It's tough because Gilbert Burns is so good and so explosive, and he's an excellent submission artist. Bilal Muhammad's kind of a jack of all trades, does everything well, but he's got the cardio of a monster. Gilbert Burns fades late. So that one, I don't have a play on that. I'd be live. That's a live betting spot in my view, especially if you're backing Bilal Muhammad. It is a 5-round fight, even though it's a non-title fight. They did make it 5-round co-main event. So keep an eye on that fight because Bilal Muhammad's got cardio for days. The Burns boys, especially his brother Humberto, but Gilbert himself has some cardio issues. So if that's close, maybe it's 1-1 going into round 3 or 2-1 Burns going into 4. You see him gassing. That might be a nice time to live bet Bilal Muhammad.
Because it seems to me like I was doing my notes today, and it comes up. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we just talked about Burns fighting like a month ago. Like, do you feel like with his cardio issues that could be a problem in this fight?
I mean, it might help him. Honestly, it keeps him in shape, and so he went through a camp, and then he's right back to working in camp. So it's something that could help him. I know one thing: you're not going to see Bilal Muhammad tire. But like, who's better on the ground? Probably Gilbert Burns. Who's the better striker? Who's Gilbert Burns? But Bilal is a little bit good at everything, which makes him interesting in that cardio. He's going to keep pressing forward. Gilbert Burns is a guy who, if you saw in the Usman fight when he really struggles, Usman put him on his back foot. If Bilal Muhammad is able to do that to him, could be interesting. But again, I worry about the cardio of Gilbert Burns, which could make it the live betting spot for Bilal.
So how this works for everyone listening or watching, Kyle and I each have 2 bets. We're going to alternate. We're going to tell why. Kyle is the guest. I'm going to let Kyle kick it off. Kyle, what is your first bet on the card?
I'm going to take Devin Clark. I'm going to take an underdog here with the first pick over Kennedy and Nzechukwu. I'm going to take him by decision at plus 300. I don't think he knocks out Kennedy and Nzechukwu, and Kennedy's going to be the taller man, the bigger guy. But Devin Clark is one of those kind of guys. If you look back to Kennedy's last decision loss against Negumereanu last March, that's the kind of fight you're going to see out of Devin Clark. Good veteran. He's going to kind of tie up Kennedy. He's not going to allow him to get that big power shot off. We know that that's what he's looking for, is the early knockout. I think this is going to be more of a grinded out fight. I like Devin Clark a little bit better on the ground. I think he can grind him up against the cage after he survived those early rounds from Kennedy. He does have some 3rd-round knockouts on his record, but I think Devin Clark's able to sustain this for 3 full rounds, pull a couple of rounds out. Not a high volume guy as Kennedy and Nzechukwu. Neither guy is. When you just look at it overall, the way that I expect Devin Clark to fight this, I think he'll have the volume, certainly in the clinch and on the ground. But there's one fight where Kennedy had 5 takedowns, makes absolutely no sense. But other than that, he's not really great on his ground. We haven't really seen him been able to get up. So I think both guys hang in there. Devin Clark, the veteran, he's an underdog here. It's a little bit of an underdog play, but I just don't think Kennedy can sustain the volume for 3 rounds. Devin Clark can. I took him 3-1 to win by decision.
I like that a lot. And one of the things I really feel Kyle's good at is when he looks at a fight and he sees the fighter, he sees their path to winning.
Right.
And that's what he's doing right here. He sees, like, if Clark's going to win this, it is going to be by decision. Why not we get a little bit of a better odds going on Clark, because that's pretty much going to be his only way he's going to win. So yeah. I absolutely love that play a lot. Kyle knows me. Anytime there is a women's MMA fight.
You know, I almost did this fight, and I was like, he's going to pick this one no matter what. So I'm not even going to mess with the Marina fight. I'm not going to mess
that
with
is where I'm going. Give me Rodriguez by decision plus 150. She's won she's done well with grapplers, and to me, this is setting up a lot like the Mackenzie Dern fight. Rodriguez will be able to keep this standing, stop the takedown attempts, and she's going to do good enough with her stand-up and Muay Thai to get the decision victory, keep this fight standing. I just don't see how she loses this fight. So I absolutely love my girl, who's a sneaky Instagram follow, Maria Rodriguez, at decision plus 150.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. If you look, Verna Jandiroba is such a low output, low volume fighter. She's only landed more than 50 significant strikes in a UFC fight one time. You take a look at Marina Rodriguez. Look at her last four. Now she was knocked out by Amanda Lemos. That was a bad matchup for Amanda Lemos. She's pretty good. There's no shame in losing to Lemos. But in her 4 wins prior to that, 72 significant strikes in the decision, 3-round decision win. 144 against Mackenzie Dern, who is a ground specialist. It's an amazing performance. And against Michelle Watterson Gomez, 125 significant strikes. You can see the volume advantage there. I think the Marina by decision makes a ton of sense.
Now, next fight, Kyle, where are you going, my man?
Let's go to the main event, and there's a lot of intrigue here. Henry Cejudo, former 2-division champion, making his return after 3 full years off. Aljamain Sterling's been on a massive hot streak. Really his only loss since 2017. It wasn't a loss, it was counted a win. He had that DQ situation with Peter Yan when Peter Yan was clearly winning that fight, but he was granted the win because of DQ. But he hasn't lost a fight since 2017. I think he has the speed advantage on the outside. I think he's a better grappler. Henry Cejudo's a good wrestler, but he's not great at keeping people down. I think that Aljamain can get up from Cejudo's takedowns much better than will Cejudo. A lot of unknowns. How does he look after 3 years off? Aljamain's the slight dog here. You can get him at plus 100 for the overall fight. He's the current champion. He's been fighting every week. He's got the speed advantage. I think the grappling advantage, certainly the submission game advantage. The thing you worry about, and it's a lot like Gilbert Burns, Aljamain Sterling tends to gas later in rounds. So if you are a Henry Cejudo backer, I would not bet this. Or I would not bet minus 120, minus 110 on a guy making his return after 3 years fighting the current champion. But if this is 2-1 after 3 rounds, you start getting to those championship rounds in the 4th and 5th round, and Aljamain looks like he's tiring. That's when you live bet Henry Cejudo at a better price. I expect Aljamain to win the first 3 rounds, the early rounds, have that advantage, gas a little bit, and carry it to a decision here. I don't think either one puts the guy away. The only thing you worry about is if Cejudo just has nothing left after 3 years off and Aljamain puts him away. But if both these guys are in top shape and going, I see it going to decision. A good greasy fight, but I think Aljamain wins it by decision plus 225.
I mean, 3 years, dude.
3 full years. Fought Dominic Cruz May 9th in 2020.
I mean, that's a long time, man. And my one question to you is this:
the question really is, why did Cejudo retire in the first place, and why is he coming back after 3 years? Right? Did he retire because he just felt like, hey, I've wiped out everybody in these divisions? No, that wasn't the case. Did he feel was he financially secure, or just didn't want to fight anymore, and now he needs the money, so he's coming back? Or is it, there's a lot of weird things. There are a lot of unknowns to bet Cejudo pre-flop. Cejudo's a guy I want to bet after those first 3 cards flop out in those first 3 rounds. Then I'll look at Cejudo if it's close and Aljamain appears to be gassing, which he does. We saw him tiring out badly in that first fight against Peter Yan when the DQ happened. We saw him in the second fight. Every judge gave the last 2 rounds to Peter Yan, but he won the first 3. So he does have trouble closing fights, and keeping up the pace. We'll see if he's a little bit more measured, but Henry Cejudo certainly live in the live betting markets. But Aljamain Sterling pre-flop for me, 225 by decision's the way to go.
I love that because I'm just because when I think Sterling, I don't think knockout artist. I know he knocked out TJ Dillashaw in his last fight.
And that one, TJ Dillashaw was going down to a weight class he's never fought at. It was way too small. The weight cut was very, very difficult. So you weren't getting the full version of TJ Dillashaw in that fight.
So I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Henry. And I don't think because of the wrestling pedigree, he's going to be able to do anything on the ground and get him in like a rear naked choke or anything. So, I mean, like you and I
think he can smother him longer. I think he'll be able to smother him longer. But yeah, Cejudo should be safe from the submission game. Like this really should be speed outpointing him on the feet.
Yeah.
and able to hold him down longer on the ground, which I think he will do. Cejudo's not great. Cejudo's a smaller guy, and he's not great at keeping people down. For example, let me pull it up so I get the numbers absolutely right. But let's take a fight like where he beat Demetrius Johnson in a 5-round. He only had 5 minutes of control time, 3 takedowns. So it's not like he was completely dominating on the ground. When he beat TJ Dillashaw, he took him down once, didn't even hold him down for a single second. Dominic Cruz in his last fight, his second round TKO, he had 1 takedown, 14 seconds of control time. So you could see guys are able to get up. The last guy he really held down and kept him there was way back in 2017 was Anthony Pettis. But I mean, you look at the fight even before that against Reese, 2 takedowns, minute 45. Takedown against Benavidez, 13 seconds. So this guy is not smothering you and keeping you down. Now you look at Aljamain, 5 takedowns against Dillashaw, 7 minutes of control time. 2 takedowns against Peter Yan, 9.5 minutes of control time. And the first fight against Peter Yan, 1 takedown, 3.5 minutes of control time. So you can see he's much better at keeping the fight where he wants it than Cejudo is. And I think that's the difference here. That's what gives him the decision win at plus 225.
I like it. I mean, honestly, that was one of the bets I was seriously looking at, is locking this one in at the decision, because I feel that's going to be his only path to get the win. My last bet, I'm going to the main card, actually. No surprise. Give me Andrade decision plus 210. I really feel this is going to be a fun women's fight. And just because she literally has no head movement. She pushes straight forward and her head just stays there, and she walks down her opponent. But I think the key thing is she's moving down to straw weight, which I think is more of a better class that's going to fit her style. She's going to be a lot more powerful. And Yin Yan's going to want to keep this fight standing. And I just feel that Andrade is a better stand-up fighter, more power, but I don't think she's going to knock her out, because we never see any of these knockouts in women's MMA. I think the decision is her only pass. So I am seeing decision plus 210, and that is my 4th bet, my friend.
I think it makes sense. Look, Jessica Andrade, her knockout numbers they always get ballooned because of that, that slam knockout of Rose Namajunas a few years back. But she is a volume puncher. Now, listen, that last fight against Erin Blanchfield, she looked terrible. She should have won that fight. Apparently, there was a really bad camp, and there was a lot of things going on. She's better for this one. So she is the all-around better fighter here. I agree. Women's MMA, you almost always take it to decision. You worry about those arm bars from guard and sort of things. But for the most part, they're smaller ladies. It's not like they're packing the punch of Francis Ngannou, so they're just not knocking each other out. I like Jessica Andrade in the spot. I think that's a good play.
I like it too. Kyle, if you parlay our 4 picks together, and I'm not telling people to do it, but if you throw $10 on it, you're getting over $1,000. So I'm just saying, for people
what?
If you put our 4 bets together, and you
by decision, okay,
yeah, by decision, you put a $10 parlay, you're getting back $1,047.88.
Well, I'm gonna do that as soon as we're done here. So,
and just to let people know, my boy Kyle, he does phenomenal work for Bet US. And the thing I like about Kyle is he wins, and he doesn't feel he needs to tout it out to everybody on Twitter. This guy, what was it? 21-3, 20-8, some absolutely absurd thing to start the MLB.
I've come back to earth a little bit this week. It's been a tough week, man, but it was a nice run.
But but I mean, that's the thing, dude. We want 55 to 60%. You're due for a little bit of regression. It happens, but I mean, with how good you started the season, you are well ahead of the curve. So make sure you check that out. It's daily at noon Eastern on Bet US's YouTube channel, and then also daily, he's putting out DFS and betting stuff on his YouTube channel, which is the DFS Bachelor. So make sure to give that out and hit the subscribe. Kyle, thanks for coming on. Hopefully, we can make this a regular thing. When there's a pay-per-view, you stop by and we talk a little bit, my man.
Absolutely. I'm putting that bet in right now, but I'm probably going to steam it up. Probably going to throw like 40. Let's go for like $4,000 or something. I don't know if I want to. I want a little bit more meat on the bone. You know what I mean?
Sounds good, my man. We'll talk soon, buddy. Make sure everyone gives my boy Kyle a follow, and we'll be back for UFC 289.